Hello everyone, and I'm going to talk about abstract today. So abstract in our project. So based on our topic, in Malaysia, educational institutions have either temporarily closed or implemented localized closure. Students from diverse backgrounds are less likely to receive the support and extra services they are required, and the gap between students will face additional barriers, and those who do not may widen. One of the most significant challenges posed by COVID-19 is how to adapt an educational system not based on physical schools or universities.
For the literature review, a research has been done by UNESCO proved that 1.6 billion learners in 194 countries, or more than 90% of total enrolled students, are affected by the academic institution closures. In Malaysia, government has announced the sudden transition to online learning method to ensure the continuity of process in teaching and learning method. For physically challenged students, they can, however, benefit from online learning as it requires minimal movement. However, some students face some challenges like internet connectivity problem, limitation with IT infrastructures, and they do not have equal access to ICT tools. This eventually can affect the students' study performance and effectiveness as they need to face the quality assurance issues, technical issues, as well as the adjustment to the new system. Another area of research and development need to be studied is for the effectiveness on the pedagogy and platform for all different class levels, and also the accessibility of educational tools to the learners from all academic backgrounds, and also how they can utilize these tools to make online teaching and learning more interactive and engage with students better.
Of our topic. The first recorded case of the COVID-19 in Malaysia was on 4 February 2020, and the first movement control order, which is MCO, was imposed on 11 March 2020. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the lockdown and social distancing measures have led to closure of schools, training institutes, and higher education facilities in most countries. This topic, which is equity and inclusion of vulnerable students, caught our attention because widespread crises have tendencies to amplify inequalities of all kinds, and COVID-19.
Hello everyone. So our problem statement on this research is how to support students during closures of higher education institutions. So due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the students' learning, social and emotions are badly affected, and thus the outbreak made everyone adapt and overcome the problems caused by it. Students were forced to undergo big changes in their method of study due to the closure of education institutes and gradual shift towards online e-learning. So, to study that, a detailed research must be conducted to pinpoint how to support students during closures of higher education institutions. Moving on to research questions. Research questions are needed to support or reject our hypothesis. In our study, we have three research questions. The first one is, how did you cope with the new changes that were implemented? Secondly, how effective do you think e-learning tools is in conducting a productive learning environment? And lastly, what do you think that can be done to help students with an unconductive learning environment?
Okay, hi there. So I'll be explaining about the objectives of our project. Therefore, we have three objectives. The first one is to determine the challenges faced by the students during the adaptation to the new learning environment. The second objective will be to analyze the effectiveness of e-learning tools to create a productive learning environment. The third objective will be to determine the solutions which can be carried out to assist students with unconducive learning environments. Okay then, so now I'll be talking about the hypothesis of this our project. So we have a total of two hypotheses. There will be the first one, which would be the students' mental health has been affected by the given workload as studies are conducted online. The second hypothesis will be as students are not in physical classes, therefore regular questions cannot be asked to the lecturers during their lectures, which leaves the students to not have better understanding of the course or subject, which will have adverse effects towards their performance in tests.
For the effectiveness of e-learning tools to create productive learning environment, students are unable to understand the course better and unable to score more. Second, some students facing technical problems during the online learning. The third was online learning was not effective, where students find it difficult to understand what the lecturer is presenting. The Students also from the family who are not able to provide good equipment and provide good internet network also facing it's hard for them to study during the online learning. For the solution which can be carried out to assist students with unconductive learning environment. First, provided by the student are skimming through the lecturer notes before the actual lecture, jotting down the important points made by the lecturer using colorful pens and marker. Second, they also preparing early and making sure the Wi-Fi is stable before the class start and wearing earphone or headphone to make them can focus during the online class. Some students also find a acceptable spot for studying with the less noise and interference. The last thing is they also inviting friends to study together so they could ask questions to each other.
Research methodology on simple terms is an analysis on what methods are implemented on in any given field of study. Literature review and conducting survey through Google Forms was used as the qualitative and quantitative method in this research. The research approach used in this case would be the descriptive study method because this approach tends to identify the characters of a problem through description. Besides that, qualitative analysis route was also chosen because this is linked to words, sounds, feelings, and emotions. This way, the respondents can get more descriptive with their answers and are able to express their thoughts with a more open-minded approach. And finally, the research instrument used in this report was conducting literature reviews.
And for our findings, which I'm going to talk about demographic background. So the age is mostly range about 18 to 22 and the gender is male is 61.5% and female is 38.5%, and most of the name of institution is like all over from Malaysia, and the year and current semester is first year, second year, third year and final year. Everyone is included in our respondent list. Next we move on to our survey question, which is question 1 is the workload for assignment, project and quizzes bigger compared to the face-to-face class, and the question 2, have you experienced any form of mental health issue? So based on the question 1 answers, we can see most of them say yes, which is 86.5 and 13.5 say no. And for second question, 53.8% say yes and 46.2% say no. So move on to next survey questions. Question 3 and question 4. Question 3, has it affected your performance in terms of GPA? Most of students say yes, which is 63.5 and 36.5 say no. So most of students probably feel their performance in terms of GPA is affected by COVID. So for question 4, which is did you encounter problems in understanding during online lectures compared to face-to-face classes? Most of students say yes, which is 86.5 and 13.5 only say no.
Okay, then so for survey question number 5, which is during online classes, do you refer to the lecturer after class to ask questions regarding the previous topic discussed in class? So for if you can refer to the histogram as given below there, the highest number is given as number 3, which had 25 responses, which refers to non-frequently. Okay, then so for question number 6, if you can see, how often do you face technical issues during online classes? So the students have responded that had the highest at number 3, which is not frequently. That means they do face technical issues at 19 responses, whereas the lowest, there is 2 responses, have said that they have never experienced any sort of technical issues during online classes. So for our final survey question, which is question 7, which is how do you rate the support given by your family during online learning at home? So for the students responses from our survey, we have received that 20 responses for number 3, that means not frequently, whereas followed by second highest is number 4 at 16 responses, that is frequently, and the third highest is at number 5, that is always, is by 13 responses. So for first open-ended question, which is what are the challenges you have faced with online learning, the students have answered 8 common answers, which consist of poor internet connection, difficulty in communication, poor time management, distractions, heavy load, lack of motivation to study, pressure and mental health issues, and finally financial issue. Okay, then so for our second and final open-ended question, which consists of what have you done to make your learning session more effective, the students have answered this, which is self-studying effectively. Second would be having good internet access. Third would be having a good studying environment. Fourth, we'll be requesting assistance from lecturers and peers.
Discussion. Since the COVID-19 outbreak, many challenges need to be overcome during transition to online distance learning, as there is not much preparation among the educator and learner that make them hard to deliver and receive effective education properly. This happened due to some sudden change in all people's life, including university students, that they need to adapt to no matter what. Even digital learning has been implemented in most of institutions. There are various of opinion and experience given by the student on this method of learning that may affect their study performance and effectiveness. The first is the challenge faced by the student during the adaptation to the new learning environment. The first is they receive more assignment while studying online. Second, many students experience mental problems in their learning. Third was student performance in terms of GPA was greatly effective. The last thing is the most of the students difficult to adapt to the online learning system. The significance of the study is to examine whether students studying in higher education institutions can adapt to the change in online learning. Since online learning is something new, then there are some students are not able to adapt it. Second, students studying in institutions of higher learning by voicing their view on the effectiveness of online learning system. This is because through the study survey will be conducted on the effectiveness of the online learning system can be better understood from the perspective of student. Third, students respond to the reopening of institutions of higher. This is because the compatible of student learning face-to-face will be compared with online learning by considering the positive and negative impact of these two methods. The last thing is to find out the best solution and method for students to be able to learn in more effective way in pandemic situation.
Based on our research, it is indeed obvious that students are facing issues from the sudden shift from face-to-face learning to online learning. Some of these issues include having a poor internet connection, poor mental health, stress, heavy workload, and so on. Students have come up with solutions to the problems like themselves, such as more self-studying, seeking help from peers and lecturers, and having a better studying environment. As a conclusion for our study, the hypothesis is accepted, and students are indeed facing from the transition from face-to-face learning to online learning. Thank you.